Hello, I'm Jackson Gibson, and I'm going to be talking about musical talent tonight. I frequently consider how interesting and fascinating it is the variety of musical performers we have today with a great level of popularity. We've got Bruno Mars, Iggy Azalea, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Katy Perry, even older artists like Billy Joel are still flourishing today. And a lot of people will debate whether or not said people have the qualifications to be where they stand musically. What I'm looking to convince to you is that any level of musical talent can be enough to establish someone as a mainstream musical performer today. When considering this, I like to note that musical talent in this context is understood as a formal knowledge and understanding of music theory and notation and composition in music. Additionally, when I speak of mainstream music performers, I'm referencing someone who is generally received by audiences globally, is impactful, and elicits a reputable fan base. The manner in which I intend to convince you of this is by notifying you of various artists who are popular today, who have received musical education, and then I furthermore intend to explore artists who have little to no understanding of music yet seem to gain a large amount of notoriety. And then lastly, implicate that music isn't the only component in musical performance. Lyricism has a large impact too. So first, there are many musicians today who flourish having experienced a level of musical education. Sinister Gates, the guitarist of popular rock band Avenged Sevenfold, studied at the Musicians Institute of LA. Avenged Sevenfold is a globally recognized band with a very large fan base, and ultimately it can be considered that his musical technique contributes to that. Another artist, Bob Dylan, who is considered to be an American folk legend, gained mainstream success over the course of his career, and he too studied music at the University of Montana. A third example is Sheryl Crow, who is a popular rock and country artist. In her biography by Steve Huey, it is stated that Sheryl Crow majored in music at the University of Missouri, and from there she pursued a musical career and gained notoriety. So those are a few examples of musicians who studied and gained musical success. But there are also many musicians who have little to no formal understanding of music, but have gained a mad amount of success. A popular pop punk group from the 90s, Blink-182, has grown and thrived over the course of the last 10 years and is still considered to be popular today, even though many people may consider them to be musically basic. No member of Blink-182 has received formal musical education. And even though they're considered to be one of the most influential pop punk acts in the last 10 years, there's a large amount of debate over their qualifications for their status. Another notable musician who has little musical talent in reflection to music theory is Paul McCartney of the Beatles. In various interviews, he has discussed how he lacks the ability to read and write music formally. However, despite that, him and the rest of the Beatles have managed to gain a massive amount of notoriety globally and have the most sales internationally for their genre. And then one last major artist who is considered to be one of the greatest mainstream musical performers of all time, Michael Jackson, was also incapable of reading and writing music. So there are musicians who understand music theory and musicians who don't understand music theory, and both have managed to become mainstream successfully. The third component I wish to address is that lyrics can bring a musician just as much popularity as their musical talent. The fact that lyrics are the most important, to say that lyrics are the most important part of music is irrelevant, because regardless of how important it is, it makes an impact. According to a discussion from NPR.org by Stephen Thompson, vocals and lyrics are far more subjective than other sounds. What tugs at my heartstrings may well work on your nerves. What he is saying is that lyrics and music affect people differently. Lyrics, such as those found in freestyle rap, can be highly effective in influencing audiences when rhythm is the key function in the music and not the instrumentation. And with respect to lyricism, no level of music theory talent is required to be a good writer to affect audiences. So, given that there is a grand number of musicians who understand music theory and a grand number of musicians who don't, and then also considering that lyrics make a large impact on music, I hope I've managed to convince you that any level of musical talent can be enough to establish someone as a mainstream musical performer.
All right, Jackson, I think you've got a lot of good examples. You cite them consistently. That's appreciated. I think you do a very nice job speaking to the audience. I just don't know what the argument is about. In essence, I mean, I'm listening to the one point and you say, there are people who are successful in music who have training. There are people who are successful in music who have no training. And I'm thinking, okay, if I had to respond to this, what position is left for me to take? You know, there is basically no opposing grounds on that particular issue. So sometimes musicians have talent and sometimes they don't. What's controversial about that? It's not clear to me what it is that what inference you're trying to make. What's in dispute? Does anybody deny that you have to have musical talent to have some level of success? Or does anybody insist that you can have incredible success without any musical talent? I just don't know why this is an argument. I don't know where the argument is on this particular point, and that's problematic. Your secondary points are phrased like an expository speech, like you are kind of explaining yourself through the process. I think you signpost them pretty clearly. I appreciated that. And at the end of the speech, when you gave us a summary, you kind of reminded us what the points were. So I don't think we were ever lost, except in the sense that I'm not exactly sure what inference I'm supposed to be making from these particular conclusions. At first, I thought the argument was going to be that people can succeed or are more likely to succeed on the basis of having some training, but then you turn right around and say, well, training's not relevant or not necessary. And there's information. It's well presented, it's organized, and I can't tell what the argument is. I'm still stuck here trying to figure out what the person responding to this is going to say, except that there isn't an argument here. That seems to me to be the best position. At first I was thinking, well, there'll be a lot of counterexamples here about people who managed to have success without that musical training, and then you provided most of that argument. I'm going, okay, so where's the ground for anybody else on this issue? You've given us a description that says there's success and then there's failure, and people who have talent and people who don't have talent can have both success and failure. And like I said, I don't see you're meeting the basic criteria of the Brock-Reedy model here. All right, thank you.